Everybody, Bonehead for the Bonehead podcast, and in the world of Kings of War 4th edition, it has begun. Now today they dropped a really funny little video about Ronnie and Matt trying to figure out the right way to take Kings of War forward, whether it's round bases or D8s, and it has Alessio coming in and saving the day. It's brilliantly shot, and I would absolutely love a web series shot in that style. It's just a really clever way to explain what they're not doing. And I think that's actually very, very key. But we move away from what they're not doing to what they are doing, because Alessio has dropped his first update of the Kings of War 4th edition, and it is the General Changes doc. So we're going to have a look and see what is coming and what is changing for Kings of War 4th edition. All right, so Alessio basically talks about how he came back to work for Mantic. It's quite interesting, actually. You know what? When Ronnie and Matt first approached me about writing the rules for 4th edition Kings of War, I was genuinely excited. Returning to a game I'd helped shape in its early days felt like coming home, but once I sat down, I began to realise just how much time had passed and how much the game had grown in that time. I actually love what he's written here, because as a player I've kind of dallied with Kings of War and then I've kind of come back, I see what he's seeing. And that's really good. We did a video on Sunday, our wish list, and actually a couple of the things on the wish list have already been ticked off here, which is really cool. So my first step was to look at Kings of War through fresh eyes. I wanted to understand, let's move my little face down here actually, where the game stood today, what players loved, what they struggled with, and what players might find daunting. I studied the latest rulebooks, army lists and community feedback, and attended Clash of Kings to see firsthand how the game had evolved. The challenge was clear: refine and modernise the rules, introduce new tactical depth, improve clarity, but without losing the essence of what makes Kings of War so beloved. That sounds very good, Alessio. Okay, so one of the biggest goals was making the game more approachable for new players. So we called this out on Sunday on our wish list. If you've not seen that, go back and watch it, because I think hopefully you'll agree with what we've highlighted here. And one of them was onboarding for new players. So it's so good to see that Alessio came back and was like, we need to capitalize on the opportunity of making this a little smoother to get people playing our game. So 3rd edition rules have become incredibly thorough, great for veterans, but intimidating for newcomers. That's one good thing about the churn of new editions, is you get that chance to kind of refresh and lower that barrier to entry. Big fan of that. So I split the rulebook into core rules and advanced rules, allowing players to learn the basics first before diving into some extended mechanics. I've also considered how rules are presented. For example, instead of burying exceptions within paragraphs, I now introduce a rule cleanly and follow up with exceptions separately, and ideally not in the first part of the rulebook. Such an approach is a small change that makes a big difference in readability, and it gives a really good example here. So when you first present the rules for movement, which will be detailed tomorrow on their blog, you should write something like the following: units can move through friendly units but not through enemy units or blocking terrain. And not units can move through friendly units but not through enemy units or blocking terrain, except for units with the fly special rule, which can move over enemy units and blocking terrain. So whenever I found something like that, I removed the exception. In this case, the effect of flying special rule should not be up front when you first read about movement, otherwise the rules become much longer and difficult to read. And I love that. You want to read about it, you don't really care what the fly rule does until you've got a unit that says fly on it. Then you go and read the rule that says fly and it kind of explains it. So just in the way of like good rules writing, I really, really, really like that. So streamlining and standardization. With the help of chosen veteran players and experienced Mantic staffers, we then made several changes to improve consistency and clarity across the game. Now this is the interesting bit, because we did talk about base sizes when we did our wish list. Let's see how that goes. So unit sizes: large infantry and cavalry now follow a standard progression of troops and regiments rather than the old regiments and hordes. Legions have been removed as a general size unit, but still exist as upgrades from certain commanders. All right. I really like this. It was a bit confusing, because if you think about it, when you've got a troop unit, a troop of infantry comes on a base like this. Troop of large infantry comes on a base like this. Troop of monstrous infantry comes on a base like this. But when it comes to bigger stuff, it's just weird. It goes like this is a troop. This is a regiment for infantry, and then for monsters and cavalry, this is a regiment. I like this. It kind of makes more sense when you look down at it. It's a tiny change that really won't matter unless it affects army list building, which we will find out later in the month a bit about that. So, all right, that might affect list building actually. Rather than the old regiments and hordes, does it actually? I think regiments and hordes, yeah, hordes. Yeah, ignore me. Legions of, well, we'll need to find out about that anyway. So hero bases, this is again something we kind of knew was coming. Now, I don't know enough about Mantic to know whether these are new models or not. I don't think they're new models. I think they're old models. I kind of saw these and I was like, ooh, are these new champions? But actually, I think they're not. You can tell by the bases. So all infantry, heavy infantry and cavalry heroes now use 40 or 50 mil bases. This standardization increases their battlefield presence and makes them feel like proper units. Larger units, larger hero titans, etc. made on the bigger bases. Okay, like that. That's something we already talked about and I think is really positive. You can add a little entourage, you can give them a scenic base. Who doesn't love a tactical rock? And quite frankly, for some of the, if you've got a hero or a wizard, they're going to come with some shenanigans on the base anyway that's not going to fit on a 20 mil. So having it be a 40 mil is great. I do think Mantic could be beneficial for them to release new hero bases. Like these are the base sizes for these units. So we can start playing and building, right? Because there's going to be a whole bunch of people out now that go, oh, okay, I would like to rebase for the next edition while I wait for the next edition to get there. So fingers crossed they do a bit of a drop like that. I think that would be really, really, really beneficial. Okay, there we've got some actual rules changes here. So single nerve value. So in Kings of War at the moment, there's 2 nerve values. One is for wavering, one is for routed. I may have got the terms mixed up with OPR stuff, but you know, basically at one point they're shaken and then the other point they're gone. Now, with changes to shooting, which we'll discuss in a future blog, that will be that you cannot shoot a unit to death. You cannot rout a unit, you can only shake them. We found that the double nerve value is no longer necessary. A single nerve value streamlines gameplay without sacrificing tactical depth. That's how Champions works, I think. They've got 1 nerve value and it just works real nice. Height and unit strength, these have been taken off the profile to clean it up as their standard values. For most units, basically the same, but there's a few exceptions. It says they still exist, so I'm assuming what that means is there'll be a special rule that sort of says, this unit is tall, this unit is very, very tall. This unit is a swarm. It might just be like swarm. They have a lower height. Everyone can see over them except other swarms, that kind of thing. I think, again, it kind of lines up with what I'm seeing here for Alessio's design, which is let's make the rules as simple as possible and then make the exceptions kind of standalone. Like, oh, I've got a unit that's got this rule. What does that rule do? All right, if I don't have a unit with that rule, I don't need to know that rule exists. In theory, unless you play against it, obviously. Okay, traits replace keywords. We've cleaned up the old keyword system. There were far too many and they weren't used. Units now have traits which are clearer and more meaningful. Traits interact with special rules, command orders and auras, but are applied more thoughtfully. Many units do not have traits, as we only add them when they are needed. Again, looking at Alessio's design philosophy. Unit positioning, we've replaced the old leader point system with a defined center point and facing points. Basically, every base has now got a center point on each of the sides, and there's a 1 unit, the center point of the unit, which I'm assuming is going to be kind of how lining up units or dealing with visibility or terrain, it gives you kind of like a really good reference point to be like, how do I resolve this situation? It's okay, there's already a rule for this, let's lean on that. Love that as well. Right, rules terminology. We've kept phase names and stat names distinct from each other to avoid confusion and improve rules clarity. Cool, like that. Here's an example of a new profile, in this case Berserkers from the Forces of the Abyss. Berserkers, type large infantry, sizes troop or regiment, speed 7, melee 4, shooting dash, defense 4, attack 15 or 30 if you're a regiment, nerve 15 or 18 if you're a regiment, and points 150 or 220 if you're a regiment. 150 points for nerve 15, 15 attacks. And they've got crushing strength. I like it. Middle circle is their trait. They've got no options listed, but I'm assuming they will. Special rules, crushing strength 1, regeneration 5+, retaliate exclamation mark. There's a trend here that we're seeing as well, and Wild Charge 1. As you can see, they now have troop and regiment options instead of regiment and horde from previous edition, have a shooting stat, although it's a dash in this case, and the nerve is a single value. They have a trait of middle circle. Not only is this used within the army, but this is thematic, as it's linked to the circle of the abyss they are from. Special rules and hero behavior. Several special rules have been updated to work with the new system, and we've introduced a few new ones to keep things fresh. For example, units with the new feint special rule can now withdraw exclamation mark from combat without having to roll a nerve test, and then also change facing exclamation mark. You'll see this on things like light cavalry and archer units. I think we might see some of that potentially tomorrow when they talk about movement. With the move to larger bases, heroes now feel like more regular units. Individuals still remain with their increased flexibility and movement, so potentially just 360 line of sight or something. So the things there with exclamation marks, so retaliate, withdraw, change facing, they all feel like they've got a little exclamation mark, which basically means it's like a secondary action or a reaction action. And if that's the case, I like that. That's quite a cool way of pointing it out. It feels like a little bit of a... They've done a really good job. Apart from retaliate, I can see, you know, change facing and withdraw being issue as an order from a leader of a unit or a company commander. I can't see him being like, I tell you what, boys, retaliate. I can see them saying withdraw or change facing, but I can't necessarily see them, you know, retaliate. Playtesting and community feedback. The last bit of the article, which I think is really cool. The development process was deeply collaborative. Initial testing was done in-house at Mantic, followed by early drafts sent to a hand-picked group of playtesters selected by the Kings of War Rules Committee. We gathered feedback through online forums and direct conversations, refining the rules and army lists based on what we worked and what we didn't. And this next bit I really like. Early testing focused heavily on the rules themselves. Later stages shifted towards army list balance, ensuring every unit felt worth taking and that players faced fun, meaningful choices during list building. The goal was always to create a game that's deep, tactical and rewarding, whether you're a seasoned general or just stepping onto the battlefield for the first time. In conclusion, it's the same game, only better, which was the very first point that we mentioned on Sunday, which is this needs to be as good, if not better than 3.5. Now, there's some really good things on this that I am a big fan of. So obviously, I consider myself a newer player. So a lot of this I really like. Kind of the streamlining of the rules. I like that. There's less barrier to entry, less mental load for me to remember all the special rules and how they interact. I think this just makes it easier to play the game, or at least easier to start playing the game, because you guys know once you play a game you want more complexity, you get used to it, you can do more. So actually having that be a little bit further down the road is really beneficial and kind of lines up with your learning curve for the game. Super love that. Yeah, the only ask I would say for Mantic is hero bases. I guess let us know what size bases are for what heroes, because if you know, you guys are anything like me, you kind of want to get your army ready for 4th edition. So you'd be like, I want to base this guy. How many extra flag guys can I fit on with my champion? How big a flame thing can I put my wizard on? That's just the coolest thing about the way this works. So before we wrap up, I want to pick on what the other articles they've got coming up are. Let's go to the homepage, go to the hub, because there's some good stuff coming this week. So we've seen all this, the brainstorming video, give it a watch, it's brilliant. I shared it on the community tab earlier. It's really good fun. General changes, that's today. We've just gone through that. Tomorrow is movement phase, so we'll jump on tomorrow afternoon and have a look at that. Ranged phase is going to be Thursday. Combat phase is going to be Friday. Then we will get a weekend. And then next week, it goes to advanced on Monday. Out of control story, rage story, which is cool. A couple of bits of fluff, kind of settling us up for 4th edition. And then the 30th will be Tuesday, is building armies and a story by Dan Mapleston. Then more videos coming on the 1st, and then looking back, looking forward, and coordinating a new edition, and more to come. So I am very intrigued for the rest of this week, because I think it gets to grips with the game. I think the key one that we're all going to want to know is building armies. We want to kind of have a good idea of what we can start prepping for the next edition. which is going to be in December. So that was already announced, but between now and the launch of 4th edition in December 2025, which I consider to be a very Merry Christmas. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I'm going to wrap up. Let me know in the comments what you think, what you want to see, what you like, what you don't like, what you're worried about, and we'll be back soon with more gaming content. Happy gaming.